Are you constantly juggling every task in your real estate business only to feel like you're stuck in the same place? Is it frustrating, exhausting, or even leaves you questioning if you're cut out for this? What if the problem isn't you, but it's how you're working? This is Commissioned, a podcast where successful real estate agents and team leaders go from chaos to wealth, freedom, and impact. I'm Todd Tremonti, broker, owner, team leader, radio host, author, coach, and all sorts of stuff right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. And alongside me is Grady Dill, our director of real estate growth systems. And we've been coaching and consulting with real estate agents all across North America for well over a decade, helping them scale their income and impact. And today on the show, we're tackling a tough but necessary question for many agents and brokers and team leaders. Is going solo, or is being solo in your real estate business silently sabotaging your success? Now, I'm not saying that that's not an option, but we're going to break down the 4 biggest mistakes that solo agents make that do drain momentum. We'll explore why spending time on the wrong tasks is costing you money and opportunity. And we'll show you how to do everything, how you being the one that does everything actually makes you forgettable in your market. So if you're ready to stop being the bottleneck in your own business and start building a model that scales, then stick around for this episode of Commissioned. Okay, folks, I could tell you 1,000 stories, and I'll definitely tell you some of what it looks like to get being a solo agent right. And then I could go for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours about how many people came to the realization that being a solo agent was wrong for them, but they didn't have to give up, the line they didn't want to cross, the values they didn't want to sacrifice. Oftentimes it won't be done as well if it isn't me, or I don't want to have to manage a bunch of people. Those things can be solved for. One of the big ways that we help people solve for that, or we see people solve for that, is just adjusting in their brain, in their own mind, or in their heart, how they define team. What do they think of? How do they define solo? What we're saying is, and we'll say it again throughout this episode, and Grady, jump in whenever, is that being completely isolated is just almost never a good thing in business and life and relationships, spiritually, socially, your health, and all these things. Just being completely on your own is a very dangerous place to be. And so, no, we're really not advocating for a completely true, pure definition of solo agent. But before we dive into the details, let me say this clearly. We are not saying that there is not a so-called solo agent business model that can work. What we're saying is we want to be careful how we define that. Often we call a successful version of that solo with help, which is a really dumb name for it. But it just means you're not truly solo. You may be the only person that every single day you're responsible for, but there's some third-party help. There's some support for you. There's some people that can cover when you're gone or have some talents you don't have. So let's dive into it. The 4 mistakes that I talked about in the intro that we want to dig into at least somewhat, if not deeply, is you handling low-value tasks. You doing everything, which includes some low-value tasks, is definitely costing you high-value opportunities. No doubt about it. So we'll get into that a little bit more. And then how you're giving up influence with your sphere, with your circle of influence, with your database, with your audience, with your people. How you're giving up influence with them without knowing it by being completely solo. And then there's this trap of trying to master skills that you're never going to be world-class at. So we'll dig into that a little bit. And then how being a generalist just makes you forgettable and barely even referral-worthy. So there's the show, folks. Now we'll dive in. Listen, when you're the only one doing anything, number one, you can never put it down. The vacation's not really a vacation. The break is not really a break. And for many of us, and I've been there, listen, I'm not preaching at anyone. I want to help you get beyond that. But I've been there. And even though you're maybe away from the desk, away from the office, away from your, key card, lockbox access, you're never away from it. Because if you're doing any real volume, there's an inspection tomorrow, there's an option period deadline the next day, there's a ratified or executed contract 2 days later. There's no real gap. And so if you are the only one performing any tasks, you're going to be performing low value tasks. And if that's the case, you're going to be stuck. And that's the exact feeling we talked about at the top of like, do you feel like you're killing it? Like you're really good at what you do and you're busting it and you're still right where you've been. You're not really getting ahead. Or in the moments that you are getting ahead, it feels like it may not be worth it. And trust me, for me, it was not worth it. It was not worth it for me to be a solo agent selling a lot of houses, even making a lot of money, but not able to enjoy it, not experiencing the freedom that we talk about on this show a ton, not experiencing the impact I want to have. And the most convicting part for me was I wasn't having the impact that I wanted to have at home, much less beyond my own home. So I get fired up about this topic, but we have plenty of examples of this, but we have a private client, mastermind member that illustrates this almost perfectly, and maybe exactly perfectly. She's incredible. She's in far North Texas, Van Alstyne, North DFW kind of area. And she forever would not call herself a team, just wouldn't do it. I'm a solo agent. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else. And through mastermind conversations and hot seats and just coaching sessions of solving problems, realizing, okay, there's someone that's helping you with some showings. Now, in the very beginning, she had none of this, but over time it evolved because she didn't want to be the bottleneck. She didn't want to be the only person. Someone helping you with showings. There's someone helping me with files. There's someone helping me get some mail out. There's someone helping me manage a Google pay-per-click budget. There's somebody helping me drop and pick up signs at times. There's someone that does my photos. Now, a lot of people have some of that, and they would still say, I'm solo. I just hire these people for help. I think what we're going to dig into here today is those are actually quite different things, to be completely solo and to have that help. So for a lot of people, if we can just get you to expand your definition of what having some help looks like, we can get you out of a bunch of the negative situations that hurt you as a solo agent and get you into either a really great version of solo for you or some other small team, big team, whatever you want to call that, group, doesn't matter. But, this member that we're talking about has gone from truly completely solo to building a business that had so much demand on her time that she just couldn't do it herself, but still did not want to lead and manage a bunch of people, a staff, employees, a bunch of independent contractors, but has now built very intentionally with our help, but so much just on her grit and hustle and with the plan, the ability to travel all the time, like go on lots and lots and lots of vacations, to be with family a ton. I've talked about her on the show before, but to be able to be away from her business quite a bit, planning on coming up, being away for over a month, and to still break records every year with increased income and freedom, but not always having to do that with increased transactions. So, but for the topic of this episode, she is an excellent illustration of don't want to call it a team, don't want to be a team, want to stay solo, and then realizing I need help or I'm stuck. I need help or I might not want to do this anymore. And so I thought, that's a perfect picture of what that journey can look like. Now, it could go way faster than that. Someone could come to grips with the idea of team earlier or never call it a team, but just define it a little bit differently by not having to be the only person doing anything. So there's, 4 things we said we'd talk about. Let's talk about them. The big warning for solo agents or people that, I know a lot of team leaders that are saying things like, why did I ever stop being a solo agent? I made more money and I had more freedom. What they mean by freedom there is if I could just handle everything and I didn't have to depend on anybody else. But they didn't have the freedom of go away and still earn money, or go away and still take great care of clients, or go away and be able to put the phone down. So step 1 is you have to stop handling all the tasks. Like I said before, that doesn't mean you have to have other full-time team members, but do you have a third-party transaction coordinator? Do you have a showing assistant? Do you have an administrative support person? Maybe they're virtual, or maybe they are in person, or maybe they're shared, or maybe they're through the brokerage or whatever, but just beginning to think, I cannot be the only one that performs tasks in my business, because if so, I'm doing a bunch of low value stuff, which means it's going to cost me high value stuff. If I'm spending even just 1 hour a day delivering checks, checking on receipts, checking on, did the vendor show up? Did the contractor show up? Then I can't do 1 hour of what might be client getting. Working on my value proposition to potentially increase my fee. Working on marketing to a specific person or area or group so that I could have a higher price point transaction, a higher fee.
But where do, like, if I'm hearing this, where do I start? How do if I'm like, yeah, this sounds great, but I don't even know what to give up. I like the control, or I've got the system built that I've been running with for 10 plus years.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things to do. One would be go listen to our episode on basic, low-cost, easy uses of AI, artificial intelligence, and we talk about how you basically can create full-time staff for less than $30 a month. The other would be considering if you're going to have one person that you do have to oversee a little bit, a personal assistant can free you up from a ton of that low-value work. Now, if they're virtual and from another country, that may be $10 an hour. If they're local, they could be a teenager, or maybe they're licensed and they cost $20 an hour, but you can go do $200 an hour tasks with those hours that are earned back. And maybe they work 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week or 1 day a week, whatever the math is on that. So it's obviously different for different people, but that's a couple of quick snapshot deals. I already mentioned maybe your brokerage offers transaction coordination, or maybe there's a shared client care coordinator or transaction coordinator or administrative file processing, and that costs you $40 a file or $200 a file or whatever it is, and you just haven't wanted to have that expense. You haven't wanted to give up the low-cost tasks. But if you can give up a handful of $10 an hour tasks and go do just a handful $200 an hour tasks, you don't have to win or be successful that often to win enough of those back to make an extra $20 or $30 or $40,000 this year while doing less of the annoying low value task. So you win both ways. More success, more income, more happy clients, more referring clients, more dollars in, and less annoying tasks. That's a double. That's a big win. Now, we also talked about the influence that you give up with your people by being the only person. And I think for a lot of our listeners or viewers, that's a stretch. You're like, what in the heck are you talking about? And what I mean is this: if you're bogged down all the time with the administrative scheduling of showings, scheduling of inspections, the discussion about every single aspect of the transaction, there's no one else to help you with that. Then one of the other things you're probably not doing or not doing as well as you could is being a non-transactional leader for your people. And what I mean by that is I doubt that you're just bailing on your responsibility to lead people while they're buying or selling. That's transactional leadership. If you're listening to this and you care about learning and growing and having more impact and income, I would highly doubt that you're failing at your job to take care of your client in a deal. What I'm talking about is outside of a deal. To your entire audience of probably 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000 people, do they view you as the most influential voice around residential real estate in their life? And a lot of solo agents, their sphere doesn't. They view them as kind, hardworking, helpful when it's time to buy and sell, but they don't think you're more authoritative than Zillow. They don't think you're more of an expert than the local newspaper. They don't view you as a call to you as way more valuable than skimming the headlines. But if you would sacrifice, if you would say, okay, I'm going to give up some of these tasks, some of these obsessions, some of the things I like and some of the things I don't like, in order to make sure I am the number one voice for residential real estate in the eyes and the mind and the voice, in the head of all of the people that I want to do business with and influence and have impact on, which is past clients, current clients, friends, neighbors, family, former coworkers, and all of their friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, right? It's the inner ring and their inner ring. Now you're probably talking about, 200 people that know 200 people, right? So thousands of people now that you may never need to know a single other person. If you are the single most influential, trusted, authoritative voice in residential real estate for all those people.
Yep. We just brought people on, new members for coaching. And how many of those people had not called their past clients in the last 3 years?
Don't name names because
I'm not. No.
Almost all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And even it's a reoccurring thing with most of the new coaching clients. It's like,
Yep.
wait, you're not calling the people
And they're
that
not
have
even all
trusted
solo agents, right?
Right.
They're either solo with help, small teams, scaling teams, that kind of thing. I think it's critical. I wouldn't be talking about it on an episode here if I didn't think it was absolutely critical. But the way I just explained it, if I'm a listener or I'm a viewer here, I might think, yeah, all that's really obvious. Here's the wake-up call. The vast majority of people are not doing it.
Right.
You're spending a little bit more time researching the MLS, a little bit more time going to the local realtor meetings, a little bit more time tinkering with social media marketing. And if you were to trade half an hour of each of those back every day, every week, what do you get back? 2 hours, 4 hours a week? That's plenty to be the dominant, most authoritative voice or face, whether it's video, audio, written word, blogging, email newsletter, print newsletter, live event, virtual event, so that all those people, your primary 200 and their primary 200, or your whole database, depending on how long you've been doing this, are like, well, if I have a question about real estate, I'm just reaching out to Todd. If I want to know what the values in a neighborhood are, I'm not checking a Zestimate. Right. I'm going to reach out to Todd's team. I know that they will offer a fully custom valuation because I pay attention to them because they consistently put out really good, reliable, trustworthy stuff.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about. And you sacrifice that when you're the only one that can do anything, and therefore you're doing things that are not as valuable as that. Now, the other thing that I talk about with solo agents all the time is you're doing things you're terrible at doing, right? Like, look, you do not want Todd Tremonti being the master of the spreadsheet in anything in your life. All I care about in a spreadsheet is the bottom line. I highlight those squares green or yellow. And then every time I come back, that's all I'm looking at, right? My wife is a CPA. Thank God. She is both my wife and my CPA, and I trust her. If anyone's going to take me out, it's going to be her. She's going to take me all the way out. And I don't think she's ever going to do that. She's delightful. But the point is, you don't want me responsible for skills and tasks that involve those skills. That's why I have a team, because I was never going to be great at that. Now, could I do it? Do I have the aptitude to do it? Yes, but it physically pains and annoys me to do that. So stop trying to master skills that you're never going to be a master of. You have the intellectual ability, I'm sure, but you don't have the drive and the desire and the hustle and the commitment and the excitement around it. That's why you need others. You don't have to be a big team leader. You don't have to have a big brokerage, but you need to hire a CPA or a bookkeeper or swap services with somebody for that kind of thing. So the trap is trying to master skills you'll never be great at, or even worse, not trying to master skills that you'll never be great at and still being the one that does those things. So you're telling your client, I am the best option for you to sell your home. And I'm going to do a bunch of stuff on your behalf that I'm terrible at doing. Where is the integrity in that? What is world-class about that? What is the incredible business you're intending to build on the back of that garbage? And I'm not trying to tell you you're a loser or a jerk. I'm trying to tell you I've been there and I felt really uncomfortable with it until I was able to grow beyond me. And you don't have to do it the way I did it. Now, if you want to do it the way I did it, there's going to be a link somewhere near this audio or this video. And I want you to just click that link and ask for a quick conversation, 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll talk about implementing some of this in your business. And of course, if you want to go beyond that with some coaching and stuff, we can talk about that. But I'll give you 15 or 20 minutes of my time at no charge to save you from this mess of doing a bunch of things that you don't enjoy or you're not very good at, but and having the integrity issue of telling your client that you are good at it or that you are the best person to serve them. So that is another trap of being purely, truly solo and having either the ego or the fear that you can't get help. Now, the final thing sort of, and it doesn't have to be the final thing, but the big umbrella here is being a generalist when you could be a specialist, right? So being a solo agent almost forces you to be a generalist. Even if you have a niche or a niche or a specialization, you sort of have to do everything even within the specialization. You got to do the paperwork, the valuations, the title stuff, the mortgage stuff, the insurance stuff, the real estate stuff, sales stuff, the marketing stuff, the compliance stuff, all those. I don't know anybody that gifted to be world-class at all those things. And I want you, if you're a friend of mine, if you're a viewer of ours, if you're a listener, if you're in our world, if you share the philosophy we do of building a business that supports the life you want to live, a life of big income and big impact, a life where you really love what you're doing, and it leads to a lot of life and value for other people, including clients, maybe team members, vendor partners, your community, You got to rein this in. You cannot be a generalist. And by that, I mean, we'll do a little bit of residential, commercial, single family, or, I'll literally handle all of it. Marketing, pre-inspection, staging, photography, all these things. Every personality type on the planet, every budget on the planet, every neighborhood in the market. That generalist mentality as a solo agent will take you out. And there's a lot of people that are still doing this 30 years later, but they've been taken out mentally, physically, financially for a season, for a day, a week, a month, a year, a stretch of your life. And obviously we don't want that for you. We want, and I hope you want, to live a life of purpose and impact and meaning. For me, that's eternal purpose. For you, it might be for your family, for your children, for your community, for your schools, for your church, for your, ministry or nonprofit or whatever it is. But the path to you getting there is not being all by yourself trying to do everything generalist. The path is, if you want to be some version of solo, to get some outside help that you don't have to lead and manage every day so that you can specialize in the areas you're uniquely gifted. What I would call your area of fascination, or some people call your superpower, or your, primary gifting. Whatever you call that, the thing that when you're doing it, you lose track of time because you're so good at doing it. And this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what nobody does better than me. This is why clients come to me and they don't go to somebody else. As a solo agent, you're tempted, if not forced, to generalize a little bit more, right? To do a little bit more of everything, to say yes and figure it out a little bit more. And I want to encourage you, borderline beg you, not to do that. Again, I said this so many times because so many solo agents in my career and coaching and speaking and teaching and just sharing have been really like almost principled in their defense of being solo. Don't tell me I have to be a team. I'm not. I am not telling you have to be a team. What I'm telling you is that being isolated is dangerous, and being truly, completely on your own is exhausting. And you can be solo. You can be the only person you're fully responsible for all day, every day. And get some administrative help, get some transactional help, get some showing help, get some marketing help. Those just might be third-party companies that you hire. Those might be fractional staff. Those might be shared. Those might be trades you have with other service providers. That might just be a network of other agents in your office that back you up on certain things. But this idea of generalization is going to cost you. And I got to follow through on something earlier where I said barely referable, forgettable, right? When someone's like, yeah, I've got a friend, Grady's an agent. I think he works with kind of anybody everywhere, and he's super good dude. The person that he told that to, how many people like Grady does he know or she know? At least dozens.
Yeah, too many.
In a market like ours in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, it might be hundreds. Even in a little bitty town, it's a handful at least, right? Now, if you were able to say, Grady's incredible. He runs this massive, he runs this really cool, impactful business. It's just him, but he has all these people that help him. He's got these stagers and photographers and people that help with showings. And I know he's got people that help with the files and all the behind the scenes stuff. And, whenever he's gone, there's someone that answers the phone. All that can be possible without you having to employ, train, equip, lead, pay salaries to all those people. So it can be done. Now, of course, if you are solo and you're starting to think, yeah, I feel a lot of what you're saying, Todd, that I don't like it either. I'm uncomfortable about some of that. Then maybe the next step for you is to define what version of team would make sense for you. And I'd be happy to give you 15 or 20 minutes of my time on that as well. Just click a link somewhere near this video or this audio. It's going to offer you a free strategy session. Just click it. We'll talk. I'll give you everything I can give you in about 15 minutes. And then if you want to do some coaching or whatever else, we can talk about that. If not, great. That's my gift to you because I don't want you stuck in this spot any farther. Now, if there's someone that you think this would be valuable for, that this would just shake loose some motivation, some clarity, some dreaminess, some inspiration, send it to them. Share it. Subscribe, download, share, all those good things. But more than anything, I want to know if you want to take the next step. I'd be happy to chat more about that. Click a link. We'll talk more. This conversation could not possibly be encapsulated, in 20 minutes or whatever. We do full days on this kind of thing. But what I want to leave people with is this. It is up to you to build the business that will help you support the life you want to live. And if the life you want to live is not one where you're the only person that can handle a problem, that can handle an opportunity, that can make the showing, that can schedule the showing, that can make the call, that can solve the problem, that can, pacify the angry client, that can deal with the insane agent on the other side, or that can deal with the mortgage lender or title rep that's totally blowing it. If that's not the life you want to live, then it may be time to really consider what we've talked about here. There are many other reasons that being solo can be great or can be terrible. But maybe it's time that you back away and think about what is the right business model? What's the right version of solo, right type of team, independent brokerage, big box, solo, virtual, in-person? What is the right model for you? If we can help you with that, let us know. If not, hey, check out the other episodes, share them with your friends. We'll talk to you on the next one.